In ancient times, the region of Albania was known as Illyria. The term Illyria is actually somewhat confusing because it can also refer to a much larger region, virtually the whole of the eastern Adriatic coast, encompassing what is now the territory of Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Kosovo and Albania. In his Roman history, the Greek historian Appian of Alexandria, ca. 90 to 160 AD, states the following of Illyria. The Greeks call those people Illyrian who dwell beyond Macedonia and Thrace, from Chaonia and Thesprotia to the river Danube. That is the length of the country, while its breadth is from Macedonia and the mountains of Thrace to Pannonia and the Adriatic and the foothills of the Alps. It is 5 days' journey in breadth and 30 across, say the Greeks. The Romans measured the country as above 6,000 stades in length, 750 Roman miles, and about 1,200 stades, 150 Roman miles, in width. The Illyrians were Indo-Europeans of the ancient period, who were made up of various tribes. The term Illyrian probably referred initially to the tribe with which the ancient Greeks first had contact, but it was later used as a collective term for a wide range of tribes in the region, although they may not have been culturally or linguistically homogeneous at all. In his encyclopedic work Natural History, the Roman author Pliny, 23 to 79 AD, shows that a certain amount of confusion about the Illyrians existed in ancient times, too, when he refers to some of them as the Illyrians properly speaking. Among the more prominent Illyrian tribes who inhabited territory in and around present-day Albania were the Albani or Albanoi, who are referred to in the Roman period by the Greek historian Ptolemy, ca. 90 ca. 168 AD, as inhabitants of Epirus Nova, equivalent to central and northern Albania. Interestingly enough, Ptolemy's map of the region includes a settlement called Albanopolis, which has been identified with Skurdhesh near Kruja. The Amantes, who have been identified with the archaeological settlement of Amantia, situated above the Vjosa River in southern Albania, about 30 kilometers east of Vlora. The Rdei, who seem to have inhabited the region around the Bay of Kotor, but may also have been farther north in Bosnia. The Greek geographer Strabo, 64 BC 24 AD, lists the Rdei as one of the 3 strongest Illyrian tribes, with the Oteriadi and the Dardani. The Rdei attained substantial power around 230 BC under King Agrin, who was of Ardeian origin. Their name may be related to the heron, Ardea, as a totem symbol. The Bilians, who have been identified with the archaeological settlement of Bilis near the Vjosa River in the district of Malakastra. The Caledoni, who seem to have lived somewhere near the valleys of the Drin and Mat rivers. Their name may be related to the swallow, Greek chi epsilon lambda iota delta nu, as a totem symbol. The Dardani, who appear in the 4th century BC, and are commonly associated with the region of Kosovo and the Drin Valley. The Encilii, who may have lived around Lake Ohrid and the valley of the upper Drin River. Their name may be related to the eel, Greek gamma chi epsilon lambda upsilon, as a totem symbol. The Labiati, who inhabited the region around Shkodra. The Partheni, who were closely related to the Tolanti and probably lived somewhat to the north of them, along the northern central Albanian coast between Durrës and Lezhë, or in the upper valley of the Shkumban River. The Panesti, who inhabited a settlement called Uskana or Hiskana, as yet unidentified, and the Tolanti, who inhabited the region around Durrës and the basin of the Mat River. They were particularly prominent in the second half of the 4th century BC, when they were ruled over by King Glaucias 335 to 302 BC. Unfortunately, we know very little about language or languages spoken by the Illyrians, because what they have left are destroyed from Greeks, Romans, Slavs and Osmans. Scholars agree that Illyrian was Indo-European, but it is unclear whether we are dealing with one or several different Indo-European idioms. There are proof that Illyrian, in any of its possible forms, is the ancestor of modern Albanian, as is widely assumed today. The history of the Illyrians was recorded, to a good extent, by Greek and Roman authors who, of course, treated them from their perspective. From these ancient historians and writers we know that when the first Greek traders settled along the Albanian coast, in Epidamnos, Durrës, and Apollonia, and established maritime trade routes there, they soon came into conflict with the native Illyrian tribes of the region. These tribes, or perhaps better ethnic groups, were however, long disunited, with each one defending its own local interests. In the second half of the 3rd century BC, the Illyrian tribes in Albania seem to have united to an extent to form the nucleus of a state that stretched from central Albania up to the Neretva river in Herzegovina. One of the early rulers of this state was Agrin, who held sway in the Shkodra region from 250 to 231 BC and financed his Illyrian kingdom on piracy. These Illyrians were seafarers, and their ships plundered Greek and Roman vessels in the Adriatic as far south as Epirus and Greece. In alliance with Demetrius II of Macedonia, Agrin defeated the Aetolians in Acarnania in 231 BC, but died after the battle of a heavy bout of drinking. He was then succeeded by his wife, Tuta, who reigned from Leza, ancient Lissos, and acted from 231 BC onwards as a regent for her stepson Phineas. Tuta's ships and pirates also plundered Roman merchant vessels and interfered increasingly with Roman trade routes and interests in the Adriatic and Ionian seas. Rome sent envoys to her in Shkodra to demand reparations, but to no avail. In 229 BC, it therefore declared war on Illyria and sent armies to the Balkans for the first time, as well as a fleet of 200 ships. Tuta surrendered in 227 BC and, after having acknowledged Rome's primacy, having paid tribute and having relinquished the southern part of her territory, she was allowed to remain in power in a smaller region around Shkodra and Leza. In 220 to 219 BC, a second Illyrian war was waged in a period when Rome was preoccupied by the growing power of Carthage. Demetrius of Pharos, Var, the regent and successor of Phineas, attacked Roman forces in the Adriatic and devastated settlements as far away as the Cyclades and the Peloponnese, thereby violating his treaty agreements. His forces were defeated by a Roman fleet under consul Lucius Aemilius Paulus, and Demetrius took refuge at the court of Philip v. 238 to 179 BC of Macedon. In the following years, Rome was increasingly concerned by the rise and expansion of the Antigonid dynasty of Macedon under Philip v. The kingdom of Illyria, geographically situated between Rome and Macedon, served, so to speak, as a buffer state. When the Roman consul Titus Quinctius Flamininus, 229 to 174 BC, defeated the Macedonians in 197 BC at the Battle of Cynocephaly in Thessaly, and relieved Philip V of Macedon of most of his Greek possessions, the Illyrians under Pleuratus III, 206 to 180, were accorded some Macedonian territory. However, Illyrian piracy continued unabated, and when Pleuratus' successor, the last Illyrian king Genthius, 180 to 168 BC, provided assistance to another of Rome's enemies, King Perseus of Macedon, Rome waged a third war against Illyria in 168 BC. Genthius was vanquished by the praetor Peregrinus, Lucus Anicius Gallus, and Illyria thereafter came under Roman sway.